Governor or Ambassador Haley.
You know, Bob, the tone at the top matters because it dictates what happens afterwards. And I'll tell you when I learned how much it matters is many of you may remember we had that horrible shooting at Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina. We had 12 people do what so many do on a Wednesday night. They went to Bible study. But on that night, someone else showed up. He didn't look like them. He didn't act like them. He didn't sound like them. They didn't call the cops. They didn't throw him out. Instead, they pulled up a chair and they prayed with him for an hour. And when they bowed their heads in that last prayer, he began to shoot. These were people like Ethel Lance. She had lost her daughter 2 years prior to breast cancer, and she had a broken heart. But she would go around Mother Emanuel Church singing, "One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I ask of you. Give me the strength to do every day what I have to do." Tywanza Sanders, he was our youngest victim. He had just graduated college, had the world in front of him. And on that night, he stood in front of his 87-year-old great Aunt Susie and looked at the killer and said, "You don't have to do this. We mean no harm to you." Or it was people like Cynthia Hurd, whose life motto was just to be kinder than necessary. That's who these people were. They weren't famous, but they loved their church, they loved their community, and they loved their family. And when this happened, it brought South Carolina to her knees. It was the first time we had a shooting in a place of worship. The media came in. They wanted to define this. They wanted to make it about racism. They wanted to make it about gun control. They wanted to talk about the death penalty. And I strong-armed and said there will be a time and place we can have those discussions, but right now we have to put 9 souls to rest. I didn't have the luxury because 2 days later, the killer's manifesto came out and he was draped in the Confederate flag. The Confederate flag is a very personal issue in South Carolina. Half of the state looks at the Confederate flag as heritage and tradition. The other half looks at it as slavery and hate. I decided and told my staff the next couple of days, the Confederate flag had flown in the front of the State House for years. I said, I want you to call in 4 groups of people. I want you to call in the Republican leadership. I want you to call in the Democrat leadership. I want you to call in the congressional leadership, and I want you to call in our community leaders. And don't tell them why I'm calling, because I knew they wouldn't show up. And when they showed up, I told each group at 3 o'clock today, I'm going to ask for the Confederate flag to come down. And if you will stand with me, I will forever be grateful. And if you won't stand with me, I'll never let anyone know that you were in this room. I have kept my word on that. At 3 o'clock, we had blacks, whites, Republicans, Democrats, everybody stand together. But that was the easy part. In order to get the Confederate flag down, we had to have 2/3 vote of the House and 2/3 vote of the Senate. I knew how personal this issue was with the state. If 50% believed it was heritage and tradition and the other 50% thought it was slavery and hate, my job wasn't to judge either side. My job was to get them to see the best of themselves and go forward. That's what we have to do in our country, is not judge people, not hate people, not divide people, but get them to see the best of themselves, to see what we could be. We ended up going through that issue. It was a tough time. It was on the heels of Ferguson. We didn't have riots. We had vigils. We didn't have protests. We had hugs. And we were able to get that Confederate flag down and put it in a place in a museum where it belonged. And America saw, and the world saw, the strength and grace of the South Carolinian people. And that's what we have to get back to again.